Alright, 10th video. You know, as an MMA fan, there's always matchups that we are excited about. And as an MMA fan on YouTube, we like to see what the intellectual minds of MMA say. Such examples are MMA Guru, Bedtime MMA, MMA Che, Kenny, Anyways, point being, this upcoming card tomorrow, the MMA community, just like myself, is excited to see the return of Charles Du Bronx Oliveira. Hello, it's Charles Oliveira. Thank you, brother. I've heard that impression. It's so funny. Anyway, what is there to dislike about Charles? Majority finishes, war, coming back from adversity, and most importantly, aura. Now, if you were to ask me, how does Charles do it? How does he always manage to maintain the pressure of being the people's champion with guaranteed violence? Now, you may say X, Y, and Z, but ultimately, there are too many factors. But I'd like to propose to you a theory. I have 3 fighters I'd like to talk about. Pereira, what do we think of amazing KO striking? Charles, amazing finishes. But before I answer who the last one is, tell me, what's the similarity between these two fighters? Leave it down in the comments below. I'll give you 5 seconds, alright? Time's up. Now you may argue that was not 5 seconds. Well, it's probably 5 seconds now. So, point is, too late. Time's up. The answer is, they are both Brazilian. And it's not just these two that bring awesome fighting spirit, like Anderson Silva, there's Jose Aldo, Junior Dos Santos, Lyoto Machida, and etc. Not only did everyone I mentioned come from Brazil, exciting fighters, but were also champions at some point. Now that I've listed all these great fighters, I think I have a theory on what makes all these guys so good, and that is Brazil. But what about exactly Brazil? It seems that the very essence of MMA attracts the culture of Brazil. Now, you may be asking, what does this have to do with the title? Well, my dear viewer, luckily for you, I am here to answer that. And that is, no fighter represents the culture of Brazil with the fighting style in the smaller divisions than Davison, the God of War, Figueiredo. Other than Alexander Pantoja, who is the second best flyweight of all time, which I may remind you, Davison Figueiredo, 30-27, the current flyweight king. Now, the reason why I bring in the culture of Brazil being a reason why Figgy can win is because there is nothing better Brazilians are than taking fighters into their world. Not only that, but rejoicing in battle. And to win in battle, you have to be the God of War. A lot of people here in the MMA community are not giving Figgy a chance because of his last performance against Sandhagen was not a great showing, which I don't think I necessarily agree, because judging Figgy on his performances in bantamweight, he has primarily been a grappler. I am aware that he has power, but he primarily uses his power to engage in his grappling and use his very creative jiu-jitsu. I will not speak on the level of his jiu-jitsu, but I would put it as very creative. One thing that I like about Figgy going into the matchup is that he is strong. He is strong and manages his energy very wisely. He is not wasteful in his attacks. Every decision he makes, whether on the feet or the ground, have a purpose. Like, I know that everyone likes to look at the Corey Sandhagen fight and mention how rough he looked, which I will not defend necessarily, but I will say this. Corey Sandhagen has shown pretty good scrambles on the ground, scrambling with scrambling with Mirab and what's the other guy? What's the kid's name? Umnar, right? On a technical level. But look, the thing is, shit. Hold on, sorry, I got sidetracked. Look, I'm gonna edit that out. Well, the point is, look, like, I will not defend him, right? But Corey Sandhagen is pretty good on the scrambles, right? On the ground. And does train with Ryan Hall, whose specialty in jiu-jitsu is leg locks. So, I wouldn't say Figgy's problem was his performance on a technical level. I think the better argument here would be the IQ to engage in a leg lock style with Corey Sandhagen, which is fine. Sometimes to win these fights, you don't need to really rely on fight IQ. Because, look, man, a main thing I have been seeing on the topic of the Montel Jackson winning is usually the same thing. Montel Jackson is going to be on the outside, wait for Figgy to come in and snipe him and knock him out. Look, I get it, and if that happens, I won't be surprised. But I will argue this. I have seen Montel Jackson fight, and for sure if you stay in a center line and don't move your head and enter the void with no setup, not threatening anything, by entering the pocket, he will gladly take your head off, right? But the thing with the sniper style is it's very linear but effective, right? Simple and effective, right? What are snipers' best kill shots typically? It's typically shots designed for you to walk into, such as straight shots, because those are the fastest to intercept. But I'd like to argue, what if the sniper has no chance to set up? What if the sniper is not in the proper position? What if the scope cannot keep steady on the target? Now, instead of waiting or finding the right time, it's now a question of, well, when will you find the right time, and how if I can't aim? Now, you may be asking me, what kind of delusional rant are you on about? Do you have schizophrenia or something? Well, look, I'm gonna answer that. Just so hold the fuck up, alright? This is my channel. Don't be getting slick with me. Alright, hold the fuck up. Anyway, point is, I've seen Montel Jackson, and there are some holes Figgy can exploit. Remember, my knowledge on Montel Jackson is primarily free fights on YouTube. Okay, so, you know, keep that in mind as you will. But there are some things I noticed while watching his opponents. Need to be doing certain things for Montel Jackson to find that sniping shot. It's not like he just finds it whenever he wants, right? An example is Damon Blackshear. You know, listen, I like the kid, but he just entered into rage, died. You know, fair enough. That's what he do, right? Nothing wrong with it. It just happens. You know, it happens to the best of us. And I will admit, Montel Jackson had amazing ground and pound, linear strikes. Again, just saying, there's patterns. Of ground and pound, right? And it was smart stuff. It hit him all in the chin. All right, Damon just fell right into his plan, right? Great stuff by Mr. Jackson. Did what he had to do. Did what he, you know, he did his job correctly. Next fight, I watch him versus Yaha, right? Or I think that's the kid's name. I don't know, the 40-year-old fucking jiu-jitsu guy. Lost first round. I think he dies by entering rage, but look, but Yaya attempts look, I know he died, right? But Yaya attempts a decent single. Does not get it right, but listen, man, if Yaya, the guy with no KOs or TKOs, is able to lift your leg off the ground and force you into a balanced position, well, I don't know if you really want to play that game with Figgy, because Figgy in this exact position, like literally exact position, was able to trip the leg on Peter and Corey. These tests of strength positions is all I'm saying. You do not want to play these games with the God of War, who also just in general has pretty solid wrestling and is pretty solid at ducking under your punches, landing on your hips, and just putting you down. Even on the feet, Montel Jackson versus Daniel Marcos. I did not watch it because screw that, right? Fuck. Okay, not gonna watch that. But I did watch the highlights. Look, man, sure, say whatever you want about Daniel being boring. I'm not here to argue with that. With you. But Montel didn't exactly show the best defense when moving his head. He just extended his arms, and since Daniel was attempting to was attempting takedowns to him and actually getting on his hips, like he wasn't just attempting takedowns out in the open and, you know, Montel just backed away. He actually got on the hips, right? And Montel Jackson just lowered his hands in an attempt to like just down bra, ready to fight underhooks, right? And Daniel attempted a decent right, and it actually, I'm gonna be real, I don't remember if it landed. But point is, if Figgy could get him in this position, I mean, you can imagine what kind of damage he could do, right? Because, you know, Figgy's not just a good grappler, he's a good striker. So before this video gets too long, I will just end it on this note, right? Montel's offense may be a sniper, but his defense is primarily just attempting to stay out of range, get out of range. He's not someone who's gonna dance around the back foot. He's not gonna, you know, move his head, you know, cut at angles. Or maybe he does. I don't know about the cut angles thing. But he will primarily just like move. He doesn't exactly like move his head a lot, or he doesn't block the best, right? And Peter was able, when Figgy was fighting Peter, he was actually able to land on Peter's guard quite oftenly, which made the fight look a lot more competitive than it was. Because look, man, I watched it back, and I'm gonna be real, I don't think that fight was as competitive like as a lot of people think. Now, I will admit though, watching that live, I could totally see how that looked more competitive than it actually was. But again, I had to really slow down a lot of the footage, and a lot of that really wasn't hitting cleanly. It was hitting the arms mostly of Peter, and it was like glancing shots and stuff like that. But point is, right, fucking Peter is the best at doing that. Peter is the best at the fucking blocking hands. He's just amazing at that fact. So I can't exactly hold Montel Jackson to that level. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So not only that, freaking, I think playing that kind of game with someone who is fast and powerful as Figgy, I think Figgy can get a decent 29-28 decision. And Montel Jackson's willingness to also engage on the ground or grappling situations makes me think Figgy, if he, just like all the other Brazilians, could just engage what he's best at, he will perform. Thanks for listening to the Yap piece. See you guys in another video. Alright, thank you. Have a good one. Peace.